Hi everyone. That has come to a surprise to me, but that was on expected lines that the Personal Data Protection Bill 2019 has been withdrawn by the central government in Lok Sabha. When we talk about data protection per se, we all remember about the 27 judgment of the Supreme Court of India, which mentions about right to privacy being a fundamental right. And if you look into the timeline of the personal data protection regime in India, it all for the last few years. Uh, it has been an on-off case. So if we go into 2011 to 2014, Ministry of Personal Public Grievances and Pension starts coordinating draft privacy bill, dealing with data protection plus surveillance reforms. And but the work was halted at that time. Then in 2012, Justice AP Shah headed a privacy committee, presents a report on international and national privacy standard for the matter. In July 2017, MIT constituted a committee of experts chaired by Justice B.N. Srikrishna, on whose committee's recommendation this data protection regulation bill came into our country. Uh, August 2017, Supreme Court reaffirms privacy as a fundamental right. We know that. KS Puttaswamy versus Union of India. That case all of us are aware of. In 2017, Justice Sri Krishna Committee was constituted for on data protection for the matter. In 2018, Sri Krishna Committee releases a 176-page report and proposes for a personal data protection bill 2018. That was a draft bill. Um, then there was consultation on the draft bill, which was going in 2018, and there were public comments made on that. 2019 revised draft on personal data protection bill was introduced in Lok Sabha as a PDP bill 2019, which has the recommendation from the P.N. Sri Krishna committee report, and it aimed to protect digital plus non-digital data. Now we will talk about this digital and non-digital and how has that particular led to the withdrawal of this particular bill. December 2019, PDP bill was sent to JPC, which is Joint Parliamentary Committee, for review from both the houses. And 2021, JPC shared its report with a newer version of law, the Data Protection Bill 2021, and when we talk about that particular framework, we realize that the Personal Data Protection Bill per se was a game changer in our country with respect to European Union. When we talk about this GDPR, General Data Protection Regulation, in India we do not have a particular law related to data protection, or in fact for the matter concerning a comprehensive legal framework of cybersecurity. Or when we talk about surveillance per se, when we talk about personal data protection bill, it aimed at giving a data fiduciary, the owner, data principal rather, the right to decide on their data, how it will be collected, and access to their personal data. And there were certain provision which were of such a nature that there was an objection raised by the opposition and some citizens as well, that this law gave too much power, overriding power, to the government of India for the matter. And this law also made a point that there was a conflict between the government of India and the big technological giant companies such as Facebook, Google, to name few. Now, when we are talking about this particular discussion, the withdrawal of this particular very important bill, which could have been a game changer, but still, when it was withdrawn, it was said that a comprehensive legal framework is needed for a country which is a trillion-dollar economy, and it needs a comprehensive cyber laws and comprehensive data protection laws. But still, I think that. Uh, there could have been some changes made to it, and brought before brought before the Lok Sabha again with certain changes. Now let me take you through the report which was submitted by the expert committee under the chairmanship of Justice B.N. Sri Krishna, and it was titled as the Free and Fair Digital Economy. We know we are talking about digital India. We are talking about the India, which can be which has a lot of data, and it's also important that this data is protected for that matter. And this report mentioned about protecting privacy and empowering citizens. You see both these terms coming together. When you protect privacy, you empower the citizens per se. And not to take you through the entire report which was submitted, but if we look into the overall major areas which were talked on was a free and fair digital economy, jurisdiction, applicability, processing, how the data will be processed for the matter, what other practices which should not be done. The consent was one of the most important factor of how what kind of a consent will a data collecting company will take from an individual, and what kind of and how can that consent will be revoked, etc., etc., and obligation of data fiduciaries for that matter, and then data principal rights, etc., etc., transfer of personal data outside India, and there was certain recommendation also made. So when we talk about this framework, this committee had a comprehensive report on what should be done when we talk about the personal data protection regulation in this country. Now, what happened is then came the Personal Data Protection Bill 2019, which was Bill 373 of 2019 for that matter. And if we look into this particular bill, and I'm taking you along, the chapters are basically on obligation of data fiduciary was there as well in the committee report. Grounds for processing personal data without consent. There is a chapter on this. Personal data, sensitive personal data for children, and there this bill looked very promising. Rights of data principle, talking about individual rights, and then there is also a right to be forgotten in lines of GDPR. Then transparency and accountability measure coming, privacy by design policy for that matter, and the data protection impact assessment, data protection officers for that matter. What is the restriction on transfer of personal data outside India? Certain exemption, and these exemptions were in question, my dear friends. So the exemptions with respect to the center government to exempt any agency of government for application of the act. So that was the biggest concern raised, that when we are talking about data protection, why there is so much exception being, so much power or so-called exception being granted to the government in these matter. Then the establishment of an authority, that is Data Protection Authority of India. So again, that these were some of the moves for that matter, penalties and compensation for that matter, tribunal for that matter. So all these were mentioned in this particular bill present in 2019. Then what we are talking about is the report of a joint committee on the personal data protection bill. And when you look into this part, you and when we come down, we understand that the JPC has recommended certain changes for that matter. And excuse me. So composition of this joint committee, their introduction, then talking about data protection and privacy for that matter. Then it also goes into biggest data breaches of 21st century, talks about key security to national security, data localization, etc. Clause by clause examination of 2019 bill has been done. Therefore, this becomes a great document if somebody wants to understand about the personal data or the data protection regime in this country for that matter. And when this bill was withdrawn from Lok Sabha, one thing which I as an individual expected, that a clear timeline should be mentioned. When will this new comprehensive bill on data protection will come into the picture? What is the timeline? And what is a promise that once again it is made, it will not again take so much time, 3 years, 5 years time to become a legislation? And because each given day the technology is expanding its base, and is the high time when we are talking about digital India, when everybody's data is online, uh, then there must be a very, very stringent law which should be a global standard for the matter when we are talking about personal data protection regulations. Now, that when I talk to you, and let's look into what the government of India said when it when it withdrew this particular bill. So it said that they have deliberated in a great detail, and 81 amendments have been proposed by the Joint Parliamentary Committee. 12 recommendation has been mentioned. So considering all this into the framework, the government thought of to remove this bill, and they will come up with a new comprehensive legal framework. But again, what I said, it's missing when they will come up with this new law, and how comprehensive, whether they will segregate between the privacy law, the surveillance law as we talk about, and because when we talk about surveillance, there is a telegraph act into the picture as well, and whether there will be some changes, path breaking changes to the intermediary liability rules or IT Act for the matter, if you want to make a comprehensive legal framework. The timeline we have already talked about, like unlike India's bill and EU regulation. So there has been a constant debate or discussions on the similarities between Indian bill on data protection for the matter and forthcoming, I can say, law on data protection and GDPR, General Data Protection Regulation of European Union for the matter. So there has been a debate all now and then, and when this bill is not still in the picture, it gives us no point to again go back and discuss the similarity and differentiation point. The big picture, there were earlier discussions upon what was good about the draft bill, where it needed, where the action was needed, and I think where the action was needed, that was one of the biggest factor for withdrawing this bill. Broad exemptions were made for the government, reduced the power and independence of a data protection authority. Social media verification provisions were there. Forced transfer of non-personal data was there. Implementation ambiguity was there. So I think when this new comprehensive legal framework comes in the picture, all these things where the action was needed will be taken care of. Uh, there was criticism with respect to local storage of data, non-personal data, as I've already told you, a legal framework for data violations. So again, all these things could have been the reasons behind withdrawing this particular law. But I'm all hopeful that a new comprehensive legal framework will come into the picture, which will talk about data privacy, which will talk about surveillance, which will talk about revamping of the IT laws, intermediary laws for that matter, and that will be the comprehensive legal framework. If one of them is left behind, then there will be still a gap. And I personally believe that within this year, in the winter session for that matter, I expect the government of India to come up with a comprehensive legal framework, and this time uh, pre discussed. This time looking into everything, all the discussions which have taken place by the JPC, and accepting the right practices, making it making it into the global standards, and also considering what what more uh, is on the way for the matter, due to the increase of access of technology to young people and citizens around this country. And that's it. Thank you so much.